Good morning. My name is Tim Morley, and I'd like to tell you about this innovative, somewhat different way of introducing primary school kids to learning foreign languages. Now, a lot of primary schools in the UK now have foreign languages on the curriculum, which is fantastic, but there's a skills gap, there's a staffing problem. We have, on the one hand, lots of primary school teachers who are fantastically effective, motivated, trained, and super, but most of whom don't even speak a foreign language, let alone have any training in how to teach one. On the other hand, we have lots of secondary school modern foreign language teachers do a super job with the GCSE class, but put them in front of a group of 7-year-olds and go somewhere out of their comfort zone. Is that, don't want to get them, can't forgive them for not wanting to get involved. So there's this gap, this skills gap, and this project, Springboard to Languages, which I've been involved in, thank you, for the last few years, aims to do that by, exactly as Vandy said, teaching Esperanto to primary school kids. Now, the title of the talk up there gives you a flavour of the, shall we say, healthy scepticism on the part of some of the parents when they go, you're teaching what to my child? What on earth? Is that Spanish? Why? What? Perfectly justifiable questions, which I will attempt to answer. So, first thing, it's not a course in how to speak Esperanto. The aim of this is not to send children out into the world, fluent Esperanto speakers to use in their everyday lives and business and so on. It's not that. That's not the point. Most of the children, the vast majority of the children will probably never meet another Esperanto speaker in their lives. That's fine. That's not the point. So what is it about? It's about all of this. Let's have a look. Key thing, language awareness. Esperanto is a very much simpler language than any other that I've ever come across, and I've learned a few and I've taught a few. It was designed to be, specifically to be, simple and quick and easy to learn, and it is an order of magnitude quicker and easier to learn than any other language I've seen. And so the kids quickly get past the stage where they just have to remember stuff and can get onto actually creating stuff, using language creatively. Which is great. It helps to develop all the mental gymnastics that's involved in having two languages in your head and switching between the two and finding equivalences between them. All of those skills get developed with a nice simple language, and then all those skills can be carried on to study other languages afterwards. It's a successful, inclusive experience. Inclusive in the sense that in any given class, a much higher percentage of that class will be capable of getting their heads around Esperanto and doing useful things with it than is often the case with other languages. And, I dare say, successful inclusive experience. Reactions from the kids, feedback from the teachers, from head teachers, and the parents, once they know what's going on, suggest that, and I should say academic assessment as well, suggest that this is good, it works. If we have a quick look at Bloom's taxonomy here, which underpins a lot of curriculum planning. We start at the top, start at the bottom, we work towards the top. There's a danger with primary school language teaching of getting stuck at the bottom. It involves lots of remembering, lots of memorizing of conjugations and of masculine and feminine nouns and of spellings and pronunciation. There's lots and lots of memorization that needs to be done before you can get on to the higher order skills. And in many language classrooms in primary schools, where we're trying to teach French or Spanish or Mandarin, we kind of get stuck at the bottom and we never get on to the creative stuff, and there's a danger that children will lose interest before then. Esperanto minimizes the memorization that's necessary, and we quickly get up to the higher order, more interesting, exciting skills. English literacy. Learning Esperanto helps kids with their English literacy. I've seen 5-year-olds who were struggling to read and write in English, but who discovered that they were capable of reading by reading Esperanto. It was so much easier. And that kind of gave them the confidence boost they needed to get on with the English. I've seen older 9-year-old kids, when faced with a task, circle the adjective in this sentence. First thing they do, translate the sentence into Esperanto in their head, because adjectives are much easier to spot in Esperanto. So it's helping with them first language literacy as well. And even numeracy, the way numbers are verbalized in Esperanto, helps to clarify how the numbers put together. And when you're 5 and you're learning about adding up and tens and units, it's really helpful. I've got a few examples of that in a moment. Esperanto brings all of this to the classroom. Almost as a side effect, it can also bring contact with foreign cultures. Obviously, a major motivator for learning foreign languages. And I've been in classrooms and taken part in video conferences between British classrooms and classrooms in Slovenia, in Hungary, in Germany. There are a number of Comenius projects. Comenius is the name of the grants given by the European Commission to primary schools to establish links with other schools across Europe. There have been a number of Comenius projects where Esperanto is used as an interlanguage between the children and adults too. So, Esperanto brings all of this to the classroom. That's what it's all about. Now, an analogy. How not to get there. This guy here is a bassoon player. Gets an enormous amount of pleasure from playing his bassoon, maybe even earns a living from it. I would suggest that if you wanted your child to become a professional bassoon player, the best way to get there is not to give a bassoon to a 7-year-old. There you go, Johnny, play us a tune. It's not going to work. It's a big, cumbersome instrument, even with adult hands. With children's hands, it's really, really hard to play. There's lots to memorize, lots of fingerings to remember. The reed is really hard to get even a squeak out of, never mind a proper note that you want to listen to. And so if you were to do that, chances are 6 or 12 months down the line, the result would be, don't like this, I can't do it, I'm no good at music, I don't want to do music. So, of course, that's not what we do. We start simple. Quick show of hands, who learnt the recorder in primary school? I certainly did. Yep, that's just about everybody, thank you. Okay. Who still plays the recorder for pleasure or in a band? Oh, 1 or 2, super, okay. Oh, there are a few around, right, super, that was more than I expected. Okay, I do you a disservice. A few people carry it on, but the vast majority of us don't. So is this some kind of massive failure of primary school policy? Why did we all learn the recorder? That's not a useful life skill. Of course, that's not the point. By learning the recorder, we learn about music. We learn major keys and minor keys. We start to read music. You learn about rhythms and time signatures and keeping time with others and harmonies. And all of that musical knowledge goes in through the simple instrument. And then it can be applied to the bassoon or the pipe organ or whatever it is you want to play. By analogy, French in the classroom is a bassoon. Spanish in the classroom is a bassoon. Chinese is an extra large bassoon with added tones. Esperanto is a recorder. That's what it's all about. Now, just before I go on, I just want to say, I can't be doing with presentations where they put up a wall of text and then stand here and read it to you. That's not a presentation, that's a report being read out loud, and it quickly gets dull. Having said that, I am about to put up a wall of text. And I am about to read it to you. Bear with me, there's only one of these. It's a quick snippet from a report by the University of Manchester School of Education, who've been evaluating the Springwater Languages project. And in this part, they're writing about School A, where kids at the time had about 18 months of Esperanto under the belt. And School B, where they'd had French for 2 years, and they just started the Esperanto. They did a French test. And this happened. The question was, does Springboard help to learn other languages? Pupils were invited to decode the French sentence, Les oreilles de l'éléphant sont très grandes et le nez est très long. And they observed. The only children to successfully translate the whole sentence were, interestingly, from School A. The kids with the Esperanto never had a French lesson in their lives. These 2 children used interesting metalinguistic decoding strategies, cognates, punctuation, context. In other words, the language skills that they picked up through Esperanto. School B children, who had been learning French since year 1, performed only marginally better than School A children in a test of French. So the skills that the kids had got from Esperanto helped them almost catch up in a French test with kids who'd been learning French. So what's so special about Esperanto? Why is it so good at this? I'll give you a few quick examples. Here we've got, at the top there, the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That much you have to memorize. Okay. But once you've memorized that, you've got everything that you need to get all the way up to 99. There's nothing else to learn. Afterwards, we just apply it. Because 11, 12, 13 is just dec 1, dec 2, dec 3. 10, literally 10, 1, 10, 2, 10, 3. Until you get to 2 dec, literally 2 tens. And then it's 2 dec 1, 2 dec 2, and so on, all the way up to 99. So For children who are learning about hundreds, tens, and units, actually, they translate the number into Esperanto in their heads. I've seen this happen in the classroom. And there's a 27, so it's dudek sep. So dudek, that's 2 tens, so a 2 in the tens column, a 7 in the units column. And by translating the number into Esperanto, it clarifies what's going on, what that 2 in 27 actually means. It's dudek, it's 2 tens. At the bottom there, sesdek 3, anybody? 63. 63. 63. Thank you for the effort. That's good.
I just can't count to 6.
That's cool. And again, this illustration of minimization of things to memorize. When you learn patro, which means father, you can derive patrino. Ino means a female or feminine equivalent. So patrino is the word for the mother. There's no separate word to learn. An instruisto is a teacher. And if the teacher happens to be female and you want to refer to that, you can call her an instruistino. Use the same ino for to mark anything as female. Hundo is and your German speakers will recognize it as a dog. Hundido is a puppy. Ido is the young, the offspring. So from cato we can derive catido, a kitten, and cuniclo, any Latin or Italian speakers in will recognize the rabbit, and cuniclido is a baby rabbit. Now, I've been speaking French for 25 years. I've lived in France. My family's bilingual English and French, and I can't immediately recall the French word for a baby rabbit. I know the word for a rabbit, obviously, but baby one, I can't remember the word. In Esperanto, it's just obvious. I can't not know that word. It's just obvious, it's there. Contenta means happy, and malcontenta, mal gives you the opposite, so it's unhappy. Same with granda is big. Malgranda is the normal Esperanto word for small. There's no separate word to learn. There's always a buy one, get one free on adjectives in Esperanto. We've literally halved the number of words that you need to memorize in a stroke with the single prefix mal. And so this is just one little corner of the language, but these principles kind of extend throughout the whole thing. I found learning French isn't, learning French and other languages, but I found is an additive process. I find a new word, I learn how to pronounce it, how to spell it, what it means, and I've added one word to my arsenal. Learning Esperanto is multiplicative. Every time I add a new word, it recombines and multiplies with everything I've got already. So I don't just get one word, I get a whole new frontier of expressive capacity. And this applies just as much in the classroom as well with young children. And so we quickly get to the stage where they can creatively use the language rather than just repeating vocabulary and memorized sentences. Far more interesting stuff. Case in point, I got heckled by an 8-year-old in grammatically perfect Esperanto about 3 months into a course. we were doing an activity where I give an instruction and the children follow the instruction and tell me what they're doing. So I give an imperative verb, they use a present tense verb. So, for example, I say staru, and they all stand up and they say mi staras. Cool. I say sidu, and they sit down and they go mi sidas. I say saltu, and they go mi saltas, mi saltas. I said, okay, shh, silentu. And the whole class went, mi silentas. Apart from little Johnny here who shouts out, mi ne silentas. but now I've got a dilemma. Do I tell him off? Or do I give him a gold star? Because he has just made the whole class laugh with a grammatically perfect utterance in the target language. From a language teacher's point of view, that's a dream come true. That's what we're aiming at. So I put on my best mock annoyed face and went, vi silentu. And he went, okay, silentas. But that has never happened in any of my French lessons. Now that's not because I don't enjoy teaching French, I do. And it's not because the kids don't enjoy learning it, I believe they do. It's just that there's so much that needs memorizing and practicing before that could even become possible in French or Spanish or German or other languages, that it doesn't happen until years down the line. And by that stage, unfortunately, lots of kids have lost interest and got the impression that they're no good at languages because they can't say anything. It's not their fault. It's not the teacher's fault. It's just really, really hard to get to the stage where you can creatively use a new language. Esperanto shortcuts an enormous amount of that and allows kids to get there and get the experience of having another language and being able to do useful, fun things with it. And so that's why we do it. So Esperanto in curriculum time in state schools? Yeah, really. It's happening as we speak, with lessons delivered by Esperanto specialists like me, but also, critically, by class teachers with no prior knowledge of Esperanto, who can also pick up the language remarkably quickly and go ahead and teach it. And so it eliminates the staffing issue at a stroke. I was slightly embarrassed the first time I discovered this, but a class who'd been studying for a year with their class teacher, who I taught a minimum of Esperanto to, actually the kids spoke far better Esperanto than the ones that I'd been teaching for a year. Well, hang on, what's going on here? But actually, it's obvious. I only go into the school for 45 minutes a week. I do as much as I can in that time. That's it. The class teacher's with them all the time. So bits of Esperanto get drip-fed into everything they do. It's in the maths classroom, it's in the English classroom, it's in the register, it's all the time. And those kids got a huge amount more out of it than from once the class teacher had taken over, than they did, than their predecessors had done from me. So that's what we do. It works phenomenally well, and I'm pleased and proud to be part of it. Thank you.